What up?
Oh, another day, another dollar. Make it be holla. We have a very special person in today. Alejandro is my boy. He's actually kind of like a paisan to me, basically, because he's Puerto Rican and Italian like I am, and he's also from South Florida like I am, and we kind of vibe on the same things, especially wine-related things and food and everything else that you can vibe with everybody. So I begged him to be on this podcast. We had one time fall through. He got, two times. You got sick.
I did.
Then I got sick.
Yeah.
And then, that was 2 weeks ago. And then now we finally were able to rendezvous.
Nice.
And then he's basically going to kick it with us Thursday, too. So we got a lot of, papi chulo.
We're here.
Nice.
We're here at the party.
We got a lot of papi chulo this week. It's going to be good.
Yeah,
So.
I'm wearing
Happy early birthday, dude.
Yeah,
Thank you. Happy birthday to you too.
Man.
I'll be the one in the Puerto Rican flag suit.
And if you are listening to this podcast and you see the post on Instagram about us having him on, you better get your ass on there and wish him a happy belated. Because we'll obviously be late, but you better at least say happy belated. So, Alejandro, welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here. I've been listening to you guys, and you guys have given our wines a lot of love, which I really, really appreciate. Because
Well
thank you. At the end of the day, these are all labors of love. I always say that wine is one of the last things on earth that has no practical purpose except for pleasure.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm always excited
This guy's
when.
fucking soccer.
You
Greek too?
That's great, man. That was good.
I'm stealing that shit.
Yeah, please.
I'm making a shirt. I'll get you a profit.
So drink more wine.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, drink more wine, because so like that's always my thing, right? Is if a wine is not bringing me pleasure, I don't want to drink it, right? It has nothing to do with.
That's why I don't drink beer.
Sure, right. So I'm always like, it's not a snob thing. There's just some wines that just don't bring me pleasure, and that's it, And then there's some dumb shit that brings me a lot of pleasure, I mean, I remember when I recovered from COVID the first time back in February 2020, my assistant was like, hey, can I bring you a bottle of wine? And I was like, absolutely. And she was like, so what champagne do you want, And I was like, no.
Yeah.
Do me a favor. I want a Moscato d'Asti.
Yeah.
I want the sluttiest Moscato d'Asti you could possibly
Martini
find.
Rossi, please.
Right.
I love it.
Asti Spumati.
That's what I want.
That's my mother's favorite wine.
That's what I want.
That's
I
great.
love, listen, a good
So
Moscato d'Asti. I think this was I think Vira makes one maybe, or one of these.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just beautiful. Because like until then, and the thought I had.
Is that the quail? It's called La Quaia or something?
I think so, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's phenomenal.
It's fantastic.
Phenomenal.
And the thing is that until Moscato, I don't know, Post came up with Fruity Pebbles in the 60s, nothing ever tasted like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except Moscato d'Asti.
That's fantastic.
That's so true.
That's it.
That one's so good.
It's
I haven't had that one in
so
forever.
good.
Absolutely delicious. And I talk about this all the time because I give wine classes, and I go, people go, what do I match with that? I'm like, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Enjoy
Fucking
it.
Netflix, breakfast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like mad at your spouse. You know, it's a post-coital drink.
It's
Whatever
really
you want.
good for
Yeah.
Formula
That's
One
what it
Sundays.
is.
That's
Formula
what I-
One's- I love
Formula
it.
One Sundays,
Yeah,
that's what I use it for.
absolutely,
It's either that
absolutely.
or a wet monkey martini to start the
There
day.
you go.
It's one of the two.
There you go. And terry cloth shorts.
Yeah.
With sunglasses on, a little Moscato, and a solo cup. Is there
Outdoor
anything
TV,
else?
you're
Yeah.
fucking set.
Beat on the table,
That's
cheese.
That's it.
That's
Great.
great.
It's the problem with with so much wine. I think as Americans we overthink it.
Of course.
And I'm always saying
Well,
that
it's everything. Food too.
yeah, food, we
Overthink the shit out of
overthink the hell out of it. It's like, guys, you would like if you're. I always say treat everything like you would your honeymoon. If you're overthinking it, you're doing it wrong.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're over discussing it, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that Europeans have honed in really well. You see some of that in Latin culture, but I think it's been eroded by, Americanization and all sorts of
I
things.
do think the Americanization has ruined spontaneity of
Yeah, absolutely.
culinary things, especially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with wine and things like that. Yeah, it's a very good point.
I mean, this whole notion that you go to a restaurant now and you have this sort of like preordained right to modify everything on the dish
And
because
expect
you
it
don't
in
like
4 minutes.
and it right is ridiculous. Go to Italy and try to tell Vincenzo at the trattoria.
No, that's how we fucking do it.
Yeah.
And that's it. Get the fuck out.
right. You're gonna get cursed out of the fucking place. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Dude,
And they have no problem doing it in Italy
No,
too. They don't even bat an
I
eye.
had a pizza in Rome. First, we got off a fucking plane, went right to a pizzeria because I was like, I gotta have a pizza. Get there, pizza's not cut. So I'm like, okay. I was like, maybe they just forgot to cut it, right? Now, I'm Italian, and I didn't even I thought that was only in Naples.
Oh, yeah,
So
sure.
I'm sitting there, and I'm like...
Wait, they wanted the thick Roman pizza?
No, it was a Neapolitan pizza, but
okay.
it wasn't cut.
Right.
So I'm like... And they go, yes. I go, the pizza's not cut. He goes, well, your fork and knife don't work? And I was like, all right, fork and knife. But you imagine I cut fucking pizza here. They fucking lose it.
Oh my god.
It's crazy.
They would
When that dude
should open a restaurant.
When that dude looked at me and he goes, it'll work. And I go, what? And he goes, the fork and knife, and it'll work. And I go, oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's fucking perfectly fine. Yes, absolutely.
It's like my grandmother talking to me. She's like, what?
Yeah.
Your hands are broken?
My hands
It don't work?
And the dude was fucking 31.
Yeah.
I'm like, motherfucker, I'm older than you. What the fuck are you talking about? He don't give a shit.
No, it's
It
for them,
great.
it's like stupid is not respect.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this happened to me in the airport. I went through a wrong door, and the lady's like, "But what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like, "Ah," you know, and then it was cool.
It's mutual understanding. Sorry, that was stupid. Yes, you were stupid. Carry on.
Yeah, carry on.
I accidentally, I landed Sunday back in for my buddy's bachelor party. The men's bathroom was closed, right? And
In Atlanta.
Yeah. I thought, apparently there was 2 entrances and exits to the women's room. I walked past the first entrance and I hook a right into the women's room. I walk in and I was like, and I just make eye contact with 4 ladies and I go, oh shit! And they just start laughing. I turned around, I was like, sorry! I'm going.
Oh,
I was like, man, if that was in Italy, that would have been priced even better.
In Italy,
would have been even better.
Italy, in a touristy place, you gotta pay to use the bathroom.
No
It's
shit.
It's like €1.
Wow.
€1 or something
Yeah.
like that.
I didn't know that.
The most amazing thing is sometimes the cleaning ladies are in the men's bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like you see, like nothing.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll park themselves at an angle towards the urinals. I'm like, I know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
I know what you're
Hey,
doing.
next time
I'm tired of the old bull. I want the young calf.
Next time you see my pops, you gotta ask my dad about when we were in fucking Naples and they said €1 and he goes, I'll pee right here. Shit was fucking coming. He goes, okay, go. He didn't let him in for nothing. He goes, it's either I don't got no money, so I'm peeing here, or you're gonna let me in. And they go, okay, go over here. And they let him outside. It was fucking great. I'm like, damn, if they only knew the American Italian guy just fucking swindled him.
But I was
out of
gonna
€1.
say, but he was able to say it in Italian,
Yeah,
and he's still Italian.
yeah.
Versus an American say that, they'll be like, and we'll have the police come in.
Yeah, exactly.
But one of their own, they'll be like, nah,
Yeah,
no,
we're good.
you're good. It's fine.
This was only made for the tourists.
That's so funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
All
there's-
right, so we get into wine.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So we've got I don't know how you want me to introduce these, but we've got 3 wines.
However you want.
All from I'm one of the partners at Origin Selections, which is a small importer, predominantly in the southeast, but then we have some national brands as well. And for us, our philosophy is very much family wineries. You know, I always talk about #real wines made by real people, without any sort of crazy manipulations, right? And so we work with all small sort of farmers, winemakers. And so we brought 3 wines. 2 of them are estate wines from 2 fantastic families, one from Sicily and one from Piedmont. And then I brought another wine. I make a handful of wines in a project called Odyssey Vini. And these are sort of, it's kind of fun wines, which I'll talk a little bit more in a bit. They're maybe a little bit more experimental. And this one certainly is. So anyway, that's what we've got in a nutshell.
I love that.
But so we'll begin with the first one.
Yeah.
So this is a grape. I'm always, I always point out to people, civilians, as I like to call people respectfully. But I always tell civilians, because inevitably I'll catch myself in a taxi, on a plane, and then somebody will find out I'm in wine. I typically, when people ask me what I do for a living, and if I'm on a plane, I typically just say I work for the IRS. And then that kind of just stops all conversations immediately.
Until you get one back. Actually,
Yeah.
fuck you.
Yeah.
You fucking audited.
Stands up, pulls out a knife, you're like, oh shit.
But every so often I'll say, I'm in the wine business, and I always get the questions like, what's your favorite wine? And I say, you guys say, we don't have a favorite wine. So, well, what wines do you drink? I said, I'll tell you what. In the industry, we drink all the wines civilians don't drink.
That's true.
Sparkling, white, and fortified. And then that sort of creates this very confused face usually staring back at you. And I think wines like this, like the first wine, are for me a great example of why we love white wines. Because at the end of the day, a lot of reds start to sort of mash in together if you're tasting a lot of them. But whites tend to be very singular. There's a plethora of different really cool white grapes, I think especially in Italy. I forget what it is, but you could taste a different Italian wine every day, and it'll take 7 years to taste every different grape and wine in Italy.
Sounds about right.
Which is crazy, right?
Amazing.
And so this is one of those. It's a grape called Erbaluce, and Erbaluce is sort of the specialty of this little wine region up in northwest Italy in the Piedmont, but it's sort of in the northern Piedmont, in this area called Canavese. And the full denomination here is Erbaluce di Caluso, and Erbaluce being, of course, the grape. It's a white, I would say it's a white heirloom grape that's endemic to this region. The region's kind of fascinating because it's an amphitheater created as one of the, what do you call the fucking big ice sheets?
Oh, glacier.
Glacier,
Yeah.
thank you. As one of the glaciers was pulling out of this area, it sort of created this amphitheater. And so geologically it's really interesting. And it sort of is a place that kind of stayed apart from the rest of Piedmont, and especially as the Langa and everything else got a lot more excitement. This is made by the Falconeri family, which is interesting because Remo Falconeri, who's like 98, right? He's still kicking, still at the winery.
Probably eats what, 4 pounds of pasta?
Yeah, 100%.
4 pounds of pasta, a pack of cigarettes, and a whole half of a prosciutto.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Killing life.
Fuck cholesterol,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And you know, he's still around. I sat and talked to him for every time I'm there, I sit and I talk to him for about an hour and a half, and he's absolutely fascinating, a treasure trove of information. But he really was one of the people responsible for kind of rescuing this grape from oblivion, rescuing this grape from completely disappearing from the area, because it had been supplanted by Arnaise in a lot of this area, of course, unfortunately by Chardonnay. I don't think the world needs any more Chardonnay. And so these guys are sort of the champions, really, of Erbaluce. There's a handful of other small producers, but I think Czech, for me anyway, is sort of the gold standard.
It's the first one I ever had, and it's killer.
Absolutely.
But I haven't had it in a couple of years, so I'm excited to revisit it.
Most current vintage, 21.
This is the most current vintage. The 22's coming out imminently. All stainless steel. But for me, what I love about Erbaluce, where Erbaluce kind of just announces itself, is in that really sort of beautiful nose. You know, it's almost like if asparagus or a romaine had a baby. It
Yeah,
just
the
kind of
asparagus
starts smell like that, you know? And this is an area that grows a lot of asparagus. It grows a lot of these kind of more wintry vegetables. In fact, the last time I was up here, we paired this with grilled fresh asparagus with an egg on top and some olive oil and butter, and it was absolutely fantastic.
So fucking good.
I haven't had asparagus in forever, but now I'm like,
Now you want
now I
asparagus?
want asparagus. It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, ripping acids, right? Like your mouth is
It's that
already
nut. There's some
salivating.
nuttiness.
There is a little nuttiness on it.
I didn't get that on the prior vintages. I don't recall that, at least.
Yeah, I almost wonder whether it's like a lactic, like almost like a cheese,
Does
cheese.
this
No.
spend time on the leaves or anything like that?
It spends the green label. That's not the official name, but the green label spends maybe a couple days on the leaves.
Okay.
It's all stainless steel, so then that's sort of racked rather quickly. They have a single vineyard that spends a lot more time on the leaves,
Right.
and it's a little bit more powerful, and is awesome. Erbaluce is also that kind of. I feel like Italy has a lot of these grapes where it's made into a fresh white wine. It's made into an orange wine. It's made into sparkling. It's made into a sweet wine. I don't believe in dessert wine, but that's a whole other thing. But it's in a sweet wine, and so it really manifests itself in a lot of different styles.
Right. Which is why it takes, 7 years?
Yeah.
One grape, 5 different ways.
Yeah, exactly. So Erbaluce di Caluso, the good thing is an uncomplicated appellation, so there's no like superiore classico, you know, which I think kind of throws people off.
Without a doubt.
I mean, that is sunshine.
Man, it makes your tongue tingle. Like
That's what she said.
Get on.
It's funny how you mostly smell, especially when it comes to northern whites, because the southern whites tend to have more of that herbal tone to me. But in a northern white, it smells green, it smells asparagus, or smells like asparagus, excuse me. but it actually has that green on the palate, which is in that herbal tone on the palate, but more again towards that like brassicas or like that delicate kind of green versus an actual herbal tone that you would typically get from a Southern Light, which I really like.
It tastes like
it's
an
more
unripened cantaloupe.
Unripened
Oh
cantaloupe?
yeah. The pith, right around the pith.
Yeah,
That's what it tastes like.
and it's got that little green right before you get to the skin. Yep.
Yeah.
I also get a little bit of bay leaf on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they have bay leaves like everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
They're
And so,
bushes there.
for me, this is the one thing I always tell folks. You know, I said,
kinda
you know,
like that white pepper
for
bay
me,
leaf.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
white pepper, bay
Yeah.
leaf, maybe even some juniper. That the best Italian whites are always gonna give you a little botanical situation.
Absolutely.
You know, if it's all fruit, it was made for dum-dums.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not a real expression of an authentic wine in any way whatsoever. It was strictly made cynically for the export market.
Mhm.
But if it's made to respect the tradition of that area and that thing, that botanical thing's always gonna come through.
Yep.
Unfortunately, as Americans, we were plied with shitty Soave in the 80s, garbage Pinot Grigio in the 90s, and so we think of Italian whites as these like one-dimensional, unimportant, uncharacteristic,
It's the same people who
uninteresting
still don't
things.
like Chianti. I'm like, you haven't had good Chianti. There's nobody doesn't like
Yeah,
Chianti.
it's because, well, in the 80s and 90s, it was bastardized.
Yeah,
Chianti,
just
that's why.
straw basket Chianti.
Yeah.
It's
I thought Gavi was going to have its moment in the 2000s, but it kind of skipped over it.
I
It was
hate
great.
Gavi. It's still so even the
Well,
finest
'cause it was
ones are still
everywhere.
like pretty
There was-
one-dimensional.
I have a Gavi that will blow your
Yeah,
minds. Yeah.
Gavis were everywhere. I mean, like,
Yeah, they were,
everybody
yeah.
fucking where. I
And
was like,
shitty,
here
and
it
shitty
comes. Yeah,
Gavis,
like, here
yeah.
it comes, and then it was like gone. I was like, yes.
Yeah, because
And then some good ones started coming out.
in like the mid to late 2000s, you had Sauvignon Blanc take off,
Yeah.
and Gavi was supposed to be the Sauvignon Blanc,
Yeah.
but then Sauvignon Blanc somehow came around from New Zealand and just
Killed everything.
ran right
Yeah.
over it.
Well, you know, you have the cliffs of New Zealand on the ocean, and then you have ocean liners, and then you have these pipes that come out of the sides of the cliffs right into the ocean liners, just fill it full of Sauvignon Blanc.
For real. For real.
Fucking overran.
Great.
You know, it's just these big faucets. Which is crazy. Sauvignon Blanc was not planted in New Zealand until 78, 79, if you think about it, you know, which is pretty crazy. But I love this, and I'm always in the lookout as a former culinarian. I'm always in the lookout for wines that can play with the kind of foods that are historically difficult to pair with, you know. And so salads are famously impossible to pair with, and as long as you don't douse it in ranch and you keep it really nice and fresh, I think this could tackle a salad very easily. It could certainly tackle, I guess we call it crudité in French, but a vegetable salad, especially in spring. I think this is just beautiful.
Dude, you know what the tongue tingle reminds me of? A warhead.
You're shocked.
It
Oh
reminds me of a
yeah.
warhead.
That's I think that's a little bit of like normally it would be like carbonic acid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, I don't remember it being like that.
8-4.
8-4? 8-4 as well.
Yeah.
I want to go 5. I can't go 6, so I gotta match you on 8-4.
I love it. Oh, what's the
1 to 10.
Okay.
Can't do 7, and you can't land on a 0.5.
Or an even number. So
Or
it
an
can be
even
like 7.0, or it can't be like 7.5.
But it could be 8.
No, it can't be any even number.
It's either gotta be 7, 9, or 8.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
I see. Yeah, I would go for a 7-9. Yeah.
7-9?
Yeah. I'm very my usual.
It's his own wine, and
My-
he's going lower than us.
So no, my usual rubric is really simple. It's okay, good, very good, and great.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, like,
That's how I am.
that's literally all my notes. I'm like VG, G.
Yeah.
Every so often there's an F, which is fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
But
Mine is 3 exclamation marks.
Yeah. No, but I love this, and this is one of those wines that I feel if more of us Americans knew about this wine, we'd be clamoring
For sure.
each
Absolutely.
other for a nice crisp thing like this that has infinitely more dimensionality than a Sauvignon Blanc or
And then 3/4 of the price.
Right. Whatever conundrum white's supposed to be.
What for the people wanting to find this retail, do you know who's got it around the metro or Atlanta area right now?
I know it's pretty. I'll be honest, it's pretty widely available in the Atlanta metro area. Everybody from
I know it's on a few
Vinoteca,
menus, I've seen it at
Gambejos,
restaurants.
everybody. it's around. This will cost, obviously the price between a restaurant and a list is going to be different. But it's going to be under the $20 range, which I think is awesome.
It's one of the biggest steals in all of white wine,
for sure.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Herba Luce has always been a steal, and it still is.
Absolutely. And listen, for me, rule of thumb for civilians out there is, if it's white and it's Italian, and you've never heard of it and it's under $20, just buy it.
Just buy it, yeah.
Just buy it. You know what I mean? If it says Pinot Grigio, I mean, are there good Pinot Grigios? Sure, but whatever. It's like a Volvo with a gun rack. You're very rarely gonna see that.
Well, it's it's basically like hopping on, because eventually every Italian white will get its play, depending on depending on how later on. But to me, it's more so because Italy does make the best whites. I don't care if I'm Italian and I'm biased. It's true. I don't care what you say. So to me, it's like you're hopping on the trend before it takes off.
Yeah,
because by the time your neighbor tells you about it, that bottle's $30, $40, and you're like, yeah, it's good, but is it $40? Probably not. I would have much rather bought it at 20 and under.
Yeah, sure.
I think people have 10 years to enjoy these wines before they start really going over that $20 level. You know, I mean, I remember when Puy Fusé was like $14.99. Now it's like a $30 wine.
Yeah.
And it didn't get necessarily bad.
It's not any better.
So I don't understand what's up with that. Hilarious. But no, I love Italian whites. Most of the wines that I collaborate on are whites, like the Helena. Like the Belli Foley white, which is really aromatic and bright acid and briny,
What is that? That's Fiano, and what else is in the blend?
So that's Inzolia, Fiano di Menfi from the west side, and Moscato.
That's right. Yeah.
Or Zebibo. And when fermented dry, it just gives it these beautiful florals that are just pretty, and they're very, for me, just very Sicilian, to have those kind of florals.
Fiano in Sicily?
Yeah, there's Fiano in Sicily on the west side.
West Coast.
So on the Menfi side, And if you're ever out there, if you're ever in Sicily and you're ever on the west side, there's a place that I'll send you to. It's the probably one of the top 3 meals I've had in my life, with the French Laundry and La Tallée de Robuchon being right up there. But it's definitely owned by the mafia, right? It's on the beach. It's on the beach. There's nothing but German cars in the parking lot.
Love it.
And it's some of the best seafood I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
So,
what's it called?
It's called Vittorio.
Vittorio.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it's absolutely spectacular. Absolutely spectacular.
Very cool.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
anyway.
we have that on By the Glass of Ground. The Belli Foley.
The Belli Foley white, yeah,
Cool.
yeah, which is such a great little bright food wine, you know.
is.
So, all right, now we go to the next wine, which bears some setup. So, this is one of the wines that
Chef's gonna rate this at a 9 or above.
Let's see, you know. So this is part of the Odyssey Vinny portfolio, sort of a portfolio within a portfolio. These are all wines that myself and my partner, her and I I come up with an idea, and then her and I start going back and forth, and then we find somebody who is definitely going to get pissed off the first time we tell them what our idea is, because they're not technical wines.
That's the whole point.
But that's the whole point, and then eventually we get to it. And so, at first glance, because they all have very modern, cool labels or whatever, and at first glance, people might say, oh, these are modern wines. But in reality, they're what I call my approach to them anyway, sort of like a back to the future approach, which is to say that the question I'm really asking is what were wines like 120 years ago, right? Most of the wine world we know today sort of emerged in the 30s and 40s. Most of the modern world emerged in the middle 1800s anyway. And so the question is always okay, in terms of the Helena, which is an unfiltered Falanghina, it's what was Falanghina like 120 years ago, right? It certainly wasn't clear, and it certainly wasn't super bright and whatever. And so this was the same idea with the wines of Trento. So when you look at historically most of Northern Europe, and I'm including for the purposes of wine making, I'm going to include France in this. Right. The shift towards big red wines happened around the 1880s, 1890s, right? Prior to that, most red wine in the Mediterranean was usually sweet, right? Or Greek in style, as they used to call it. A Barolo was sweet until the 1890s. Or they were kind of pale reds, right? That's why Bordeaux was called Claret, because it was clear, right? Tavel is sort of a leftover of what a lot of reds would have looked like, you know? And so when people ask me, well, is this a red wine? I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, is it a rosé? I'm like, I don't think so. It kind of also drinks like a white, and so I'm like, it's non-binary.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't identify as anything. So it's a very modern wine.
That's good.
It's a very modern wine. And so, ripping acids, because most wine in Trento would have had ripping acids. We did tone down the acids a little bit for the next vintage. 10% alcohol, which I love, and again, because 10 ABV would have been what most grapes left on their own without a whole bunch of manipulation in terms of farming and all that stuff would have gotten to, especially in this area. And this is Schiava, Teroldego, and Pavana.
Yeah. Can before we continue on about the wine, can you go back and explain to the civilians why most wines would have been sweet?
Because they would have been sweet because we didn't know what was happening, right, in terms of fermentation, right? It wasn't as
because I know there's some people that are like, what the hell does he mean there was sweet?
We didn't know what the hell fermentation was. It was just something that happened, you know, sort of like
drink.
yeah,
so we did.
right. Sweetness was also prized because sweetness was rare. Right, and you didn't find you couldn't just make something sweet really without maybe honey, and honey itself was very expensive, and so sweet things were very prized to begin with, and typically again you would get and listen, you know, we can make. I always say we as human beings today we can make red wine that won't kill us in our bathtubs today, right? You can't make white wine like that,
right?
But you can make red, and if you do. You know, between the ambient yeasts, the yeast that would have always sort of been contaminated in everything, you got these runaway, very warm ferments. You know, a lot of what we think about wine today is really French and Northern European, where due to the colder ambient temperature of the cellar, fermentations were slow and more stable. But in the Mediterranean world, be it Spain, be it Italy, be it Greece, be it the islands. You typically have very hot fermentations. As your juice starts to ferment, heat is created within the ferment, on top of which the ambient temperature then pushes that ferment up, and you get these very hot, quick fermentations with a lot of volatile fruit. And typically, it got so hot that the yeast died and was killed during the fermentation before it completed, or the grapes were so ripe, and this is certainly in the South Mediterranean, the grapes were so ripe that it killed the yeast. In essence, couldn't really ferment it all the way without its own piss, which is alcohol, in essence, becoming toxic to it and killing it. And so you ended up with these, 12, 14, 15% alcohol wines that could have fermented to 22 if that was possible, but they were sweet. And between the sugar and the alcohol level, and typically some level of volatile acidity, that's what preserved the wine. At a time where we were opening and closing the thing and opening and closing it. And so you had a natural preservative.
Right.
When we made wines dry and we started controlling fermentation, that's when the problem about wine keeping started to really, happen.
Your dad, you guys fucked it all up.
Yeah, but there are wines that people still don't like. The Torri, which is that's one of my wines as well.
Staff on that
today. Cool, yeah. So that's one of my wines. He makes his sort of big boy Canonau, which is 18.5, 19%, and it still has residual sugar. That's how you want to taste what wines tasted like 200 years ago. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what wines tasted like. It's phenomenal, but it confuses a lot of people. It's the crying game all over again, And so these wines to me are always really fascinating, and which is why, by the way, which is one of the reasons we don't see a lot of true Puglia wines in the U.S. because true Puglia wines made in its authentic, quote unquote, way are super tannic, super sweet, and very high in alcohol. And most people don't like that. Although I think in Atlanta there'd be a big market for them.
They love it. Anytime I introduce people to Negro Amaro and things like that, they love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It takes them a second because they're like, "What do you mean it's got a bitter tone to it?" I'm like, just taste it. Just taste it.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, I'll buy the bottle back. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And they end up loving it because they don't. And then same with Primitivo. Like most people know Primitivo now, but when you talk about like the Nero de Troyas, the really tannic acidic ones for the people who like acid, and then when you're talking about Negro Amaro, and they try it and they realize it's also 15% alcohol,
Right.
and it tastes, or not taste, but it's also in that same range, body and feel as Amarone at way less the price. They're like, oh, I can get down with this.
I can get down with that.
Yeah.
Right. And Amarone, I know these, Sfursat, Amarone, these are all vestigial wines
Right.
in a way. These are all the wines, they harken back to an older time of making wine.
Right.
The inverse of that entire tirade is something like this.
Exactly.
Right? Grapes that are, we're at 1,500 feet in elevation.
Right.
We're picking them pretty early. And then we're co-fermenting them for a couple of days outside in the cool weather. And then they go into a tank in the cellar and spontaneously ferment. And you have low sugar concentrations, and so therefore you end up with a 10% wine. My argument would be that something like this was probably what you started drinking at around December and January.
Yeah.
And this was your spring wine. This would take you into March, April, at which time your other wines were starting to be ready and drinkable.
Right.
That's awesome.
So, do you prefer the bigger reds, or do you prefer reds like this?
It depends. Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
It depends on the context. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, it's all context. Sometimes you wear tighty whities. Sometimes you wear a thong. What are you doing? What are you doing that night?
Sometimes you wear nothing.
Sometimes you wear nothing. So for me, it's all context. 10% alcohol for me. Something like this. This is a boat wine. This is a beach wine. If you smell it, it's got these like fun aromatic reds. It's one of my favorite smells of like Tavel. I'm a huge Tavel fan. And it was certainly something that I was looking at. And again, ripping acids. But if it's hot out, that's kind of exactly
that's
what I want.
It's like drinking lemonade.
Yeah.
You want
precisely.
acid and still a little
Precisely.
sweet. Like,
100% drinks like a white.
Mhm.
100% drinks like a white.
It drinks like a white. It looks like a rosé-ish, but it's not a red.
it looks like a Cherasuolo.
It looks like a Cherasuolo. But I also
Abruzzo, not Vittoria for my nerds out there.
right.
Which band is gonna want?
But this is also something that I wanted. That if I wanted to fill a glass with ice and pour some of this in it, it's fantastic.
Dude, honestly, I would totally make that even into a cocktail.
Absolutely. A little.
This is fucking insane.
I told you this is gonna be your favorite. I told you.
Shit. God.
Because what's funny? He says that reds give him agita unless they're at like the right temperature. And I was like, well, this one is not going to need to be at any temperature, but you're going to fall in love with this wine. I can tell you right now.
And it's like you said, like it drinks like a chilled white.
Yeah.
At room temperature.
It's got all the acid you want in a white.
Yeah.
It's got it pairs with fucking everything and anything. You could eat seafood with this.
Yes,
right
absolutely,
now. Because now I want seafood.
absolutely.
Yeah, you can put
A
this
crudo,
I want to put it on
sushi,
at least.
grilled
I want to put it on
octopus.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I want grilled sardines with this.
Ooh,
I want
yes,
a little bit of
yes.
fucking
Like a
salt.
grilled mackerel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want
With
some
some
herbs
blood
and shit.
oranges.
Yeah,
I
herbs
want
and
the
blood oranges.
oils, and then all this
Mhm.
acid will fucking destroy it. God.
Go ahead.
All right, no, before we do that, is it available in liquor stores around us?
I don't know.
Yeah, who's carrying this right now?
Retail? I'm not sure. I think some of the cooler guys, like I feel like Elemental maybe carries
Yeah,
this.
probably.
This is getting a ton of love in Savannah, and Charleston.
I guess you
You
could
know,
consider Savannah a beach town. I don't. Those people
It's,
consider it, and I'm like, that
Yeah,
shit ain't
no,
no
no.
beach.
No, this is cool little natural wine bar called Late Air. Shout out to them. They've
Savannah?
been in Savannah. Yeah, they've been killing it with this. It's not a wine that's for everyone, but I love it. I think it's a lot of fun.
I think you could, but I think out of a lot of the wines that you bring in, or like a lot of the wines that we work with, and that are of this new or old, however you want to call it,
Sure.
style of making wine with these fun, funky labels, I think this is honestly one of the more approachable ones.
100%.
Yeah.
I think it's very approachable for the general population.
What would this be in the store?
Under 20.
Right? Yeah, I know. I know. And that's the other thing is
Do we
like,
have this on any of the lists?
no, I'm working on it.
9.4.
9.4. I think that's the highest rating out of
9.4.
anything so
100
far.
fucking percent.
Yeah, I'm a 9. Oh, I can't do 9.5. So yeah, 9.6. Because I can drink that shit all day and night.
Yeah. What did you think?
I enjoyed it. I'm just enjoying trying all the wines in the podcast. I'm not as savvy as they are, but I'm just like taking in all the notes. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The way I look at wine is like when you drink it, think about what you want to eat with it.
Yeah.
And then if you want to eat like a McDonald's hamburger, you're probably not going to score this in a 9. But if you want to have a crudo or like really nice fish or stuff like that, or even like a really fucking sexy pasta dish, I'm putting this in a 9.
Yeah.
But don't get it twisted though. I would love this with a Big Mac right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I would rush that shit with a Big Mac right now.
Well, you cut through all the fat.
Everything, 100%.
The way I judge wine is either what do you want to eat with it, or the two other things. Or sorry, the one other thing. Where do you want to be?
Yeah.
Does it give you a happy feel? Like for me, Tuscany is one of the only regions. Sicily and Tuscany are the two regions that I can close my eyes, and I've never been there personally, but I can close my eyes and I can see that I'm there.
Yeah.
Versus like, or like if I have this, I close my eyes and I'm with friends.
Yeah.
Drinking.
Yeah,
And we're around
exactly.
the table, we're all hanging out in the kitchen,
Exactly.
or we're on the beach or on a boat.
Yeah, man.
Doing whatever.
Absolutely. We're playing dominoes. It's hot.
Yeah.
You know, there's because again, what I love, I wanted a thirst.
Yeah.
I wanted a thirst quenching
I'm on baby duty
wine.
later. So.
And
You are?
Yeah.
I gotta teach a pasta making.
Elliot!
He's a fucking jury duty.
Is he really? Oh, poor guy.
10% ABV. 10% ABV. It's alright. It's all good.
And it's just like Jolly Rancher on the nose. Like it's
Just
just.
do you deliver? Can I get a case for the house?
I knew it. I was waiting on it. Oh,
So good.
you're gonna show up with a case of red and makes me think, what the fuck happened?
You're like, okay, try it. Chill out.
Is it red? Again, it doesn't identify. It's
Well, that's the other problem. No, I'm putting it as red on the menu because if I put it as
Yes.
rosé, nobody will buy it.
No.
But I gotta put it as red on the menu.
And if you put it as a white, they expect it to be cold. And
Exactly.
to be honest, if you serve it cold, it's great, but it neutralizes some of these fun aromatics.
Of course,
And
right.
so I like,
Tightens it up.
yeah, exactly.
Our reds are at cellar temp, so
Yeah.
it'll come out and then it'll
Yeah,
warm
so
up as it
It'll be
sits. It'll be
perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because like it's just like have you ever seen the Di Giovanna Commodia? Have you seen that one? It's
I
the
think
orange
so.
wine with the snail on it.
Yes,
really fun looking
yes,
label.
yes.
That has all of a sudden taken off because one of the servers really likes it now, and a lot of people see a bright orange wine coming through the dining room with a fun little funky snail on it, and they're like, "What's that?"
Yeah.
And now it's just flying, you know. And I think the same thing with this. Like they're gonna see this and they're like, "Oh, it's a red. Wait, is it bubbles or
Yeah,
no?" And
right.
then they're gonna look at the label and be like, "That looks really cool. What is that?" And at Alici, I mean,
Dude,
that's
can I ask you
gonna
for a
sell it.
favor?
Yeah, what's up?
Can you bring some of this with you on Thursday? 'Cause I would drink just this the whole time.
Yeah, I think I could
If
swing
not-
by. No, I could swing by Avant Partier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
God, it's so good.
I know.
That'd be perfect.
That with the
85
lechon,
degrees.
with the little
With the lechon, this
Oh
would be
my
amazing.
god!
85 degrees outside.
What is he doing? Porchetta
Sipping it. We're
and
doing a porchetta.
and a whole pig, a suckling
whole
pig.
pig. We're doing oysters.
I'm excited to try this with
Roasted oysters in the coals of the pig, fat dripping on
No
it.
shit.
Ah.
With tuna andouille on top.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
gonna be fucking.
All
fire.
of that
Yeah, with that.
right here.
Yeah.
would
Well, that's a good
absolutely-
thing too, because this doesn't have almost any tannin. So with any spice,
Yeah,
you could
absolutely.
also put this with something.
And with
spicy.
oysters. I mean, again, that's what I love
Dude,
about
you know what's
it.
the
That
sweet crack
acid
with?
with oysters is great.
Szechuan food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude,
absolutely.
Like, oh my god, this would be so good with like really spicy Chinese food.
Yeah. I'll pick up some bottles
Oh,
and
man.
I'll bring it on Thursday. Absolutely.
So
Freak everybody out. You know.
That's gonna be
Just
fun.
don't give it to anybody.
We'll take it. We'll put it in the back.
That's
back
it.
table.
We'll put it in like a brown paper bag.
Yeah.
Pouring our own shit in the corner. What's he drinking? Shut your
Shut up. It's Colt 45.
Quiet,
2 zigzags.
quiet.
That's what it is.
We're just drinking right out of the paper bag. Oh my god, that's insane.
Yeah.
Very
No,
good.
I love this one. I'm really excited. Honestly, the next vintage is even better. So we're excited about this one, and we're thinking about this.
But you said you toned down the acidity?
Just a smidge. Just a smidge.
I know. The
yeah.
civilians don't care for it as much as
Just a
we do.
smidge. Yeah. Just a smidge. Not too much, because that's for me. It's part of the profile. Of the
Well, it's
wine.
at such a good level to where you could confidently, for me, I could confidently pair it with an acidic dish. Like your crudo.
100%.
So, but I don't want it to pass that line to where like the crudo then overpowers it and just makes that taste muted.
That's right. No, and I mean the acid level. When I say a smidge, it's like a tiny bit. you know?
Right. Okay.
And so this is a Romeo. You see the letters right here on the
Why
side.
do you get that
I'm
name?
showing that here. I just seem sexy.
That's fair.
Honestly.
Same with Helena.
The Helena. Well, the Helena's because of the Hellenes and the
Right,
Greeks and whatever.
right.
But this, I was just like, yeah. I wanted this color, and And I had seen Schiava made
That's
into.
the most Miami bottle of wine.
It's very Miami.
So great.
It's very Miami. But I had seen Schiava, La Boutanche makes that Trollinger that's like a really bright pink red.
That wine, I'm never, like, it disappoints me every time I drink it. I feel
The-
like it
which
falls
one, the-
flat.
the-
La Boutanche.
La
All of them.
Boutanche, yeah.
And I've tried every single one. I wanted, like, every time they release, I run to the store, go grab it, and
Yeah.
every time I'm just like, what is missing?
Yeah, I have favorites.
What do I not
have
taste
favorites,
that other people do?
Yeah, I like the Riesling.
And it's a liter, right?
It's a liter.
That's the other reason. I'm like, oh, it's a liter. I can't go
Yeah.
wrong. And then I get it, and I'm like,
Don't love
Could've bought another
it.
liter.
Yeah,
Could've
don't
bought
love
another
it. Yeah.
it's crazy.
No, I love the Romeo. We're working on the.
Can you work on a
the
3 liter for that for me for Christmas?
That would be
Yeah.
awesome. I want to start working on 3 liters on some of the wines. Who was it? It was oh man, this little Piedmont guys that are a Piedmont producer with a G, and they came out with a 2-liter bottle with a swing cap about 2 years ago.
Love
that
that.
I love with.
Nice.
And we're making a light Alianico brother of Helena, or sister called Hera.
Hell yeah.
And we've talked about trying to get those swing bottles.
That's
'cause those
sick.
are just
Dude,
cool.
yeah, swing tops
Yeah.
always make everything taste better. They really do.
Yeah, they're just fun. And again, it harkens back to like, what it was like. You were getting that demijohn of wine,
Yeah.
you're putting it in the side. I've gone back to this 3 days later, and it's still intact because those
Yeah.
acids,
Yeah.
it's antioxidative, right? Nothing's gonna like penetrate it. So it's pretty cool.
It's incredible.
Pretty cool, yeah. Cool. I'm glad you guys
Oh,
like it.
yeah.
I knew you would like Schiava, but I was
Yeah.
like, well, this is so.
So I never had Schiava until I
experimental.
started working for Chef, and he made me bring a Schiava in, and I remember trying it after he had already ordered it, and I was like, this shit tastes like water. I was like, why do you like this? He goes, oh no, I love it. And I'm like, it tastes like grape water. And he's like, it's delicious. And we just like argued for 5 minutes straight. And I was like, whatever, man, it's cool. And to this day, I still hated Schiava, and yours is like, well, it's a blend, but obviously it's mostly Schiava. It's the only one to this day that's like, for lack of a better term, excuse me, makes you cream my pants. Like,
Yeah.
straight up. It's fantastic.
Yeah. You should have that looked into. Yeah, I mean, Abbadia de Novacella makes a pretty good Schiava from this area, and we work with another Trento producer. They don't make a Schiava, but they make a Lagrange, they make a Terol de Go in a fresher kind of vibe, And now Elizabeth Fordori is doing a totally different thing, but I'm starting to really appreciate those wines up there.
Yeah, and she's the one who
reds.
got me. I mean, I love their whites, of course, but like
Yeah.
she definitely converted me to the. I mean, I've never had a Schiava from her either, but her Tarolega was the first time I had it.
Her
And then
Tarolega is beautiful.
that white from her, that Montuni.
Mhm.
Oh my God, that thing just. I was like, wow.
The Fontana Santa,
That one.
Fontana.
I think that's Montuni, right, or something like that.
I forget
It starts with an M.
Yeah,
it's
I
a
forget
weird
what the grape
small
is.
varietal, but
Yeah.
that Fontana Santa, I was like, yo.
It's unbelievable.
And we
Have
only
you
got-
had it?
No.
Yeah. We only got allocated 4 bottles.
Yeah.
And we drank 2 of them.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, it was
There's this little there's this little wine bar in Rome where I go to. I lived in Rome for about 5-6 months once upon a time, and I go there every so often. I was there a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, with my fiance, and we were sitting in this wine bar, and it's late at night. I'm tired. We just had way too much food, and I was like, let's go grab a bottle of something. And the server, for whatever reason, could spot that we're American, And so he doesn't give a shit, the owner of the wine bar. It's like 11:30 at night. He looks out, he's like, fuck these guys, And I'm sitting there, and I go in, I'm like, here, we're going to get a menu. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll come up with a menu. And my fiance's like, hey, should we just go somewhere else? I was like, no. I'm going to order a wine. Trust me, we're going to have his full attention
Yeah.
in
Once
another
you do
5
it.
minutes.
Yeah.
And
He's
I
gonna
ordered,
realize off the wine I ordered.
And I ordered the Fontana Santa.
Yeah.
And this motherfucker was like all over us. Like,
Yeah.
how do you want this wine? How come? I was like, uh-huh.
I know, so you hear it
Yes, and you like it. It's very good. You're beautiful. Mamma mia.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, guy.
Yeah,
Like-
beat it, bro.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's a great one.
How much does it cost over there? I'm curious, because it's not cheap over
Dude, I tell you, it was 20 euros. It was 25 euros. I mean, that's the crazy thing. It's 25 euros.
I hate how much everything costs.
At
least like the things we care about. The food and the wine. Everything else is expensive, but the food and the wine is so cheap there. And I'm
It's
like,
so inexpensive.
as an American, as a foodie
Well, it also
American.
depends on where you go. Tourist traps.
Yeah, that's fair,
Tourist
too.
traps will hit you over there.
Yeah. But I'm like,
Amalfi, forget it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all a bit
Yeah.
touristy.
But you go to
Well, it's the same with Venice.
You go to a B&B, in Amalfi, and you're paying $1.75 for a bottle of Valentina.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, 7.
Yeah. Can I order that
Roll
case?
up.
Can I order the case? Yeah.
Trust me, we'll get through it.
You want a little bit too? You
Yeah,
can
come on.
bring your glass.
And they will. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
8:30 in the morning, they'll fucking drink with you. They don't give a shit there.
Oh yeah. There's none of this,
Every day is
weirdness.
a day off for them. It literally is. Like the woman that ran the Airbnb in Amalfi, literally every day was as if it was her day off, and she just has friends at the house.
Yeah.
So she's like cooking, and then she's like, "Oh, I'll take you to Naples," and he gets in the car. I'm like, "What about the sauce? What's the sauce? I gotta eat that when we come back. What are we doing here?"
I turned it down low.
No,
It's
it's
okay.
okay. It's okay. And then she's driving her little fucking stick shift. I'm like, Jesus Christ. You bring a vino. Let's go. And then you bring in the fucking
Drinking in the car.
I was pregnant in the back. I'm like, what's going on right now? It's fucking great though. That's how they are. They don't give a fuck.
I love it. That's the one thing that's like that
Bro,
cultural
smoking
divide.
cigarettes in a gas station.
Oh,
What?
Yeah, they don't give a fuck, dude. It's great.
That's
Whatever. You gotta go, you gotta go. And they say, I'm like, alright, whatever, dude. That's fine. Yeah, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I was like, not for this, dude. You could go across the street and smoke. If it's meant to be, that's like you get hit by a car, right? Or like you get cancer, not like you're actively smoking a cigarette in a gas station.
That's so good. I love it.
Putting it out in the gas tank.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly right.
I can't wait to go next year.
Dude,
So excited.
it's so fucking fun.
I always implore people like, forget all the pictures in the Instagrammable places. Take the attitudes.
Yeah.
Take
Correct.
the notions.
Correct.
Take all these things with you. You know, we have friends that to a lot of our friends, we're a little strange. You know,
Yeah.
and but my friends are like, oh yeah, it's so amazing because they do this and do that, and I was like, well, you can do that too.
Yeah. You just choose not to.
Yeah, and they're like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, you can do it too. We try and do it. You know, and I think that's really the. I've been pretty fortunate. I've lived all over the world. I've lived in Southeast Asia for 5-6 years. I lived in India for a year and a half, and I've taken a little bit of something from each place, and I think that's the souvenir that really impacts your life far more than like, this is me on the Leaning Tower of Pisa, this is me in front of the Colosseum, this is me in front of the, like, who gives a shit?
Yeah. That's one thing I talk about all the time, because culture always infatuates me, and it doesn't matter where in the world. I'm always infatuated by culture and people's outlooks on life. In the West, it's just so numbed by everything.
Oh, yeah.
And all they care to do is go to those picturesque places. And I'm like, go to the village, find a grandma that happens to speak English who's 98, and get some wisdom from her.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sit down and talk to her. Buy her like a drink or buy her some food. Offer it to her, and then see if she can speak to you and learn something from it. Because like, to me, now that I'm older and I appreciate it more, I wish my grandparents were still alive.
Dude.
Like, the shit
Without
I
a
could
doubt.
sit down and
the
talk.
shit that you wanted to ask them now.
Yeah.
You didn't get a chance to.
Yeah, and you're like, damn, I can't believe I didn't think about that
Yeah.
as a kid. And then you realize, well, that was also when I was like 12 years old. So of course I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
And now it's upsetting because I'm just like, now I look for older people to talk
Yeah.
to.
You talk to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Talk.
especially people that grew up in.
I'll pour you some Romeo.
Yeah, especially people that like grew up in Europe or like
Yeah,
and things like
yeah.
that. Like the shit that they've been through, I would love to talk to you.
I got into an argument at Pisa because there was an American person there, and I walk up to it and I look at it. I'm looking at it. My cousin's there, my wife is there, and I was like, "Can we get the fuck out of here?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Why?" I'm like, "Why the fuck are we here?"
Yeah.
I was like, "This is the biggest tourist trap in the world."
Yeah.
We did the picture.
Yeah,
holding it,
holding it,
yeah.
holding it
So I
up.
go, "Let's get the fuck out of here." And the woman looks at me and she goes, "It's beautiful." I was like, "It's beautiful. It's falling down." They fucked up, and they got you here to take a picture next to it. They fucked up. Like, it's an obvious mistake. Eventually, it's gonna fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, those one guy's like,
Just
Giuseppe, I got that idea.
Yeah.
I got that idea.
Yeah.
I know it's a little broken,
Yeah.
but I
It's
think...
okay.
We put one person in front of it, take a picture, everybody goes to take a picture.
It's awful. There's nowhere good to eat around it.
No, of course
It's
not.
awful.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Awful.
Yeah.
The coolest thing about it was that we got it. It was epic. A year later, a ticket comes in from Italy of my dad sitting outside of the car, parking in a no parking zone, smoking a cigarette. They got the whole thing, dude. It's a picture of him. Your boy tries calling back and going, "It wasn't me." That was fucking best thing ever, dude. I'm like, "You're a sick fuck. It wasn't me."
You got the wrong
They
guy.
just gotta Facebook you, bro. I want to see your ass. Like, oh yeah, there he is. That's it. That's the guy.
It's amazing. And they found the address.
Oh yeah,
Like, send it to you.
everything.
Why? Because they had a license plate?
They had the license
Yeah.
plate that was attached to the rental car
At
was
that
attached to
date.
us.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
It
Amazing.
was fucking hilarious. I was at the house when we already moved. It happened like years later. It was fucking great.
Yeah.
Great.
What was your favorite place you ever lived?
Tough. This is so cliche, and I sound like such a basic bitch, but I loved living in Paris. I lived in Paris for about a year, and I used to go to the market every other day. There's a market in a different part of Paris, and I remember after like my third or fifth time and tasting like everything that you tasted was like the best carrot you ever had. The best. And I remember thinking, see, being a French chef is actually easy. Because everything, just the material is unbelievable. Right. You just got to get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? And you'll make the best shit ever, but you just got to get out of the way, right? And it's funny because I used to tell people, I used to do these wine dinners. I was the F&B director for a group of luxury hotels, mostly in Southeast Asia. And when we would do a dinner like some private island off the coast of the Philippines or Indonesia, the worst chefs to work with were the Spanish and French chefs, because they're used to everything being a certain quality and it's awesome, and if that thing didn't come in or if it wasn't absolutely perfect, they had an absolute bitch fest and just couldn't work. The American chefs were the easiest ones to get along with because they're used to having to think creatively. You're used to having to coax all this stuff out of kind of not great produce, and so they always. You always have to think, So from like a lifestyle perspective, I love living in Paris for that reason.
And then I can see the Italian chefs just not giving a fuck.
They're a little more creative. They got pasta, which is a great canvas for you to do a lot of different things, and you can mash shit. I think the place that taught me the most was India. I learned patience in India. I learned that I think India broke me of a certain a very American mentality of you could do everything and we can all be all the things, and India was like, fuck you, no, that's not life,
One of my mentors lived in India for a few years, and he said that it's one of the best places he ever lived. He learned a lot.
I don't know that I would ever live there again,
right.
But and I lived in a very specific kind of context, but it taught me more than anything else, and going back to talking to elders and stuff like that. I mean, I think one of the things that I'm never shy about is I've talked my way into many kitchens, by just asking who made this, or if it's mama, and going out, and then the techniques that you learn that are not sort of the typical techniques that you get. I went to culinary school, and so you're taught a very specific set of techniques, but you learn all these other things that are indelible that otherwise you would never learn, and so if it was a Muslim woman in Phuket who made the best pad thai in her driveway with her daughter doing homework while at the same time serving you, I was next to that woman for the next 5 days, being do it again. Here's another $5.
Stop. Do it again. Keep going.
Let me see it.
You can do this.
Okay. But that to me, that's what makes traveling. That's what makes traveling worth it and amazing, and that's what gives you growth far more than the Tower of Pisa picture.
100%.
I'm very much. I don't travel to take a break. I'm always an explorer when I travel. And I can't. And people are like, "Well, it's a vacation." I'm like, "Yeah, but I ain't trying to vacate." That's the problem. That's the root word. You know that, right? It's a very American way of looking at it. And sure, there's a place in time where maybe I'll take a day and just sit on the beach, crisp up a little bit, get a good tan, whatever. But for the most part, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to see some things, and I think again that's just what we have messed up as a culture on this side of the world. It's sad, but I don't know.
Well, we our glass is so full that we can't fit anything else.
Yeah, that's the problem. I look at it half empty. Mostly everybody looks at it half full.
The cool thing about America though is there are people that are doing cool shit all over the country, and as much as I want to go to Italy and spend a lot of time there because they do fantastic stuff, we don't have that product, right? We don't have a Samartano tomato. We don't have buffalo mozzarella. We don't even have Caputo. They sell to the Americans.
Right.
They have stone ground wheat that they literally grow in their backyard. They do it themselves. We don't have that. So for me, what's interesting? Evan Funky in LA and the pasta he's making there. Fucking the Dan Richer, the dude that's making pizza at Raza in New Jersey. I want to go eat his shit. Chris Bianco, Pizzeria Bianco, where he fucking mills his own shit and makes it all by hand, all of his own. That's fun, and that's the guys I want to hang out with in the U.S. Right. When I go to Italy, you gotta do it for what it's for, right? I mean, it's to just splurge and enjoy what's there.
Right.
And then over time, when you come back, you're like, cool, I could do that too, but I'm not using fucking Italian flour anymore. I'm gonna mill my own shit. I'm gonna do it that way, and you create your own thing here, because that's what I think is so funny. Like, you know, like there was a meme about like John Hancock and all those dudes coming back and being like, damn, you still haven't changed the fucking constitution? Like, you're still doing that shit? Like, you would have thought you would add to it. It's basically like the fucking Italians when they come here, they're like, you haven't done it your way yet? You're still making my pizza from over there?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, fuck, man. But that's what also makes me sad about like California wine, right? It's like, you're telling me you can't make this?
Yeah.
I bet you could.
You could.
And I bet you would fucking kill it here. But you want to make that fucking over fruity fucking fruit bomb of a mess. And everybody loves it with their steak. Meanwhile, it's still shit. And you're getting charged $300 a bottle for it.
Yep.
It's fucking crazy to me.
Which is
Imagine
amazing.
But that's why I like what Ortiz, she's bringing into that Oregon stuff. That's cool wine.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's dudes that are doing cool shit.
Oh yeah, what's the
So they got
Like the
Chris
divisions.
Brock,
The divisions.
Divisions.
yeah. Brock
Specialties
I
got
love
He
Brock
kills it.
stuff.
Specialties got Steve Matthias and like
Yeah,
that.
Matthias is one of my
Yeah,
gods,
yeah.
my California gods.
But I
you know,
love that they do that. That's
Yeah.
fucking cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're making real wine.
Yeah,
everybody
they are.
else is
Cool.
trying
They
to.
are.
It's pornographic.
Dude, if
you
I
know?
see any more cake bread, I'm gonna fucking snap. Frog sleep, I'm gonna all that shit. It's stop. Now there's a place for it, and you know what? Like the golfers, and they want to go out their steak, and then after like I get it.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
no, and they also want to underwhelm their wives.
Well,
all the
that's
time.
yeah.
That's the other thing is like you can make those wines, and yes, those are the wines that keep the lights on. But
have
do
some
like
fun, dude.
well, that's the thing. It's like Chris Brock. I mean, we can only get allocated 8, 12 cases of each little thing he releases, each experimental batch he releases. So he has 8 to 12 batches or 8 to 12 allocations in probably at least 20 of the states in the U.S. So like that's a good little chunk of wine. You can at least spend some time to experiment. It's only going to make you a better winemaker or a better vendor. Period. Like.
I would be lying
Invest
if
in
I didn't say
yourself.
that his Love Red was slightly an idea that I had in my head with this.
Oh, 100%. I can see it.
I think that
I
Love
can see
Red
it.
is so, and the Love White is outstanding.
Yeah, they're all good.
Outstanding.
They're all
I tell you, I go down the Broad River with cans of the Love White.
That's
it's
awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's
Very
right. I
cool.
forgot he cans it now.
Yeah, he cans it. Yeah,
Genius.
and
That's one guy I'd
It's
like
fabulous.
to interview.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah.
Just gotta make a trip to California. I haven't been to California wine
Yeah,
country.
they're all
I've
friends.
never
They're a bunch of
been.
stoner winemaker friends that all
Fucking
hang out
great.
together.
That's
and,
great.
and they're making all sorts of things. But that to me, the California. I spent a long time in the high-end luxury wine world, probably around 6 years of my career in the luxury end of the wine world. And it was after I kind of gave all that up, I opened a restaurant in Miami, and I wanted out the wine, right? So I was like, I told my partners, I'm like, you do the wine list, I'll design the place.
You just
and
get burnt out?
conceptual. Yeah, I had a moment, actually, this is maybe gonna sound so douchey, but I was having dinner at Chateau Margaux, okay? And we're at Chateau Margaux, I sound like an asshole. And there was all these, Steven Spurrier was there, Jancis Robinson, and all these people, and I was tired, and everybody, and there was this one wine that was spectacular. It was like, I think it was an 80-something. The point is that I was trying to have this like magic moment with it, because it was, the wine was so amazing, and everybody was just talking shit the entire time, just hearing themselves talk and pontificating, and no one would just shut the fuck up and just be in that moment. And I remember looking at that time to my wife and going, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
I literally in this space was like, I'm done. I'm gonna need a moment. And then like a year later I opened this restaurant, and my partner was well versed in all these wines, Scolia, Mathiasen, Brock. And that, to me, was this huge breath of fresh air. I honestly became a big champion of this California wine, or this new California wine movement. Where you have these guys, Petit Paysan, like that little Chardonnay
that's just
that
great.
he puts out. It's like high acid and just absolutely fabulous. And so I think there's a lot happening there. I think, unfortunately, part of the California problem or the ceiling to their success is price.
Yeah.
Is that
Always
at the end
will
of the
be.
day, it's like, okay, Brock has a cool Nero d'Avola, it's also $35.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'd rather drink a Sicilian.
Right, you can get a Ferrari
offense, I've had it.
Nero d'Avola from Sicily for $10 less, right? And so And that's, I think, always gonna be California's snag.
Yeah.
Is that they can't.
That's the one with the badger on it, right?
Yeah. It's a badger.
It's good, but like
it's good.
Yeah.
But you know.
Still gets to say
You know, I mean, Vermentino. I had the same with one of the reps from Specialty. It's like, well, it's a railsback Frere, I think. And I'm like, yeah, but it's also $25 Vermentino.
Yeah, no Vermentino should be over $20.
Like, I don't know. I just I feel weird.
Yeah. You know? This feels fake.
This doesn't feel right. You know, like I don't care what the priest tells me. So. I think that's always going to be the problem, you know.
That's great.
So you got bricked out, and then were you always interested in the natural newer stuff, or was that the revelation? Was when you
I think that was the revelation.
That was the revelation.
Yeah, that was the revelation, and it's funny because in Athens I was consulting for a wine shop that sort of became really well known for a lot of experimental wines, and then that kind of thing kind of spread throughout Athens, and so I for a minute there I got pinned as like the natural wine guy, which I was like. I don't consider myself the natural wine guy, but
I know people have tried to pin me on that.
Yeah, like no, but I'm seeing people do something different.
Yeah,
isn't that refreshing?
Yeah.
Rather than everybody trying to do the same things, you know?
Same shit every day.
Yeah, and so it's like that's what I was celebrating. I was celebrating this kind of like new take on wine, this less obnoxious take on wine, you know? Because again, for years it was going to all these hoity-toity Napa wineries and then being like, you know, when we have, you know, gravity-fed this and that, and, you know, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
What did you invent? Oh, my husband invented the stent.
Yeah,
okay.
Got it.
Great, thanks. Got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that wasn't fun. So I kind of discovered that world. Yeah. After that, and I worked for I had worked for Eric Solomon between the restaurant and that discovery and kind of really doing that. And those are also pretty conservative wines.
Right.
You know, they're technically perfect. They're very technical from where they come from. But it was something that I always wanted to experiment with. You know, and the Odyssey Vini wines have kind of given me that outlet. You know, where I get to work. We get to work with some of these families with their wines that are sort of pretty traditional. Whether that's like the Herbolucci or the Cerasolo we'll taste next. But then I can kind of have a little bit more fun. You know. And this is something that even Italians don't get. Like when I tell them, hey, I want, you know, we have this wine called Grappolo, which is all these, it's from Alto Piemonte, it's all these, it's Vespolina, Nebbiolo, and Croatina. And when I told the winemaker we were talking about, I was like, I want a Vino Sfuso, you know, and he was like, a Vino Sfuso?
Yeah.
Why? I sell that shit in a demijohn
Yeah.
for €3. I'm like, yeah, but that's what I want.
Yeah.
And it just did his head in.
Yeah.
You know, because they're under this impression that wine for the States has to be important.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, the idea of an important wine is precisely the problem, because now we think all wines are important, right?
Right.
So you have Susan buying a $12 Pinot Grigio that wants to know how important it is. And you're like, Susie, sweetheart, it's a Pinot Grigio for $12. What are we talking about?
And you're probably going to add ice cubes to it.
You know, like, what are we talking about?
Sprite.
You know? Yeah. Like, which of these $10 Chardonnays is better? I'm like, they're both the same thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And changing that conversation. And that's what I love about, to be honest, the younger wine drinkers, the millennials maybe, but Gen Zers, millennials, is that they don't have this idea that wine has to be important. Mm-hmm. You know, they've come into a world where wine can just be fun.
I was gonna say,
You
people
know?
forget that wine's supposed to be fun.
Yeah,
because
wine's
people
should just
forget
be
that
fun.
wine was made to, well, like it really got made obviously for just healthy drinking things because water wasn't good.
Right,
But
right.
like realistically, not the new way of thinking about wine, but the original way of wine was you gathered with friends, family.
That's it.
You opened a bottle or two
Yeah.
or 20, depending on your family, and you sat around and you grazed on food and you ate. And you just were able to enjoy peace for a little bit.
For pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did it for pleasure. I just think culturally, you know, we have this sort of Anglo-Saxon, Protestant discomfort
Right.
with pleasure. You know, to the point where you talk to some people like, I just don't know how that fits into my life. I'm like, anytime. I'm not asking you to do chatterbait. I'm just asking you to enjoy a gamay.
Yeah.
You know, like, what are we talking about?
Great.
You know? I don't even know what that is. I'm told it's a thing. I've never seen it. What's the internet? But yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be about pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
and
it's what we hope we're doing with the podcast.
Yeah.
It's like
Hopefully, yeah.
stop being
that's
so
it.
stuck up. Be adventurous.
Be adventurous.
Go
Life's all about adventure. It's not just about where you go. It's also about the
go
things
to,
you try.
go to a wine shop, find a bottle you've never seen before, and buy it.
Yeah.
And buy it.
That's it.
I tell people, go to...
Pick one that's above 30, pick one that's under 20.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Listen, give the wine person, you know, I have so much respect for wine people. Give the wine person find a shop that actually has a wine person.
Right.
And give that person $100 and say, I want 4 bottles.
Yeah.
You're gonna get the
And
best
listen
4
to
bottles
them.
that person has tasted all week,
Mhm.
because that person has tasted maybe 60 wines that week.
Yep.
You know, they'll taste more wines in 1 week than most civilians are gonna taste in a year.
Yeah. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, those people are dying to just give
Yes.
someone. They don't have to nerd out with you for 30 minutes. They will if you want them to.
Yeah.
But they're just dying to give you a 5-minute spiel on a wine.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
When you're talking, we've all done it when we've done public speaking or whatever. And like me, I could talk forever. People know that. But like, you always wonder where you're at, and then someone goes, but you feel like you're up there for 10.
Yeah.
They give you the 2 minutes, and you're like,
Yeah.
damn, I thought it's been 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So you imagine that person being able to talk to you about a wine for 5 minutes. Like, it's awesome for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
It's the
And
same
they
thing when the
feel-
table pulls me aside and they're like, actually tell us about this wine. I'm like, how much time you got?
Yeah.
But that has to be your favorite customer. The customer that says, hey, look, I want something under 100, but it could be over 60 or 70.
Right.
That's going to be awesome with this and that. What's your favorite?
Right.
The probability of you giving them probably one of the better wines in your list is very high.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
but we get so weird about asking for help. You know, I sometimes have to say, look, what do you do for a living? I'm a neurosurgeon. I'm like, okay, and that's what you study, right?
Right.
Well, this is what I study. You know, it's okay. You don't have to know all.
I'm
the
not going to
stuff
try to
about
operate on
it.
myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know,
Scalpel.
exactly right. And also don't be afraid of the money thing. People get really weirded out with the
Yeah.
money thing.
Yeah.
With what does it mean about me if I only want to drink? You know, I tell people all the time, like my daily drink is maybe $18-20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
As it should be.
I'm not sitting down
No,
to a
no,
burgundy
no.
every night.
No.
You know, like
I think people think that about us. Too.
people do.
Oh,
People do
yeah,
think
yeah.
that.
I
Yeah.
tell people all the time, I'm like, especially if I'm going retail, now that I know what things cost, I'm like, I ain't spending more than
Yeah,
$20.
no.
I ain't even spending more than 15. You know, like I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
But yeah, people get so blown away by the things that I tell them, and they're like, but you don't do it. I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah. No.
I don't.
No.
No, I mean, like, I'll let someone else bring it.
Yeah,
I ain't
yeah.
buying $100 bottle
Yeah.
of
Right.
champagne.
No. Absolutely.
I'm not buying the
Absolutely.
Bordeaux at whatever price. Like,
No. Somebody brings it, I'll be more than happy.
yeah,
You're
I'll
nice.
drink the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I'll give you two $20 bottles that you think are the same cost as that. You're gonna be blown away even more than I was.
For real.
You know?
Exactly,
I'm not a
exactly,
cheap fuck. I'm just smart.
Exactly. So I mean, and that to me, like that's the beauty of wines. Like, for example, like the next one with the Cerosolo di Vittoria. Cerosolo di Vittoria to me is very underappreciated wine.
100%.
You know, I think that the part of the problem is what I call the Cerosolo conundrum. Is that people hear Cerosolo and they're like, wait, isn't that a pink wine? You know, because
Right.
they think of Cerosolo d'Abruzzo,
Right.
which is an entirely
Which
different
even
wine.
then isn't really that pink.
No, it's like
It's
to
basically
me,
a
it's
red
like a
rosé.
Romeo.
Yeah.
It's a red rosé. I
Right.
love Cerosolo. I absolutely
so
love
good.
Cerosolo
So
d'Abruzzo.
good.
But the Cerosolo di Vittoria, you know, this is a wine that kind of emerged in the late '60s as Sicily's true exportable red. And what I mean by that is that, you know, up until the 60s and 70s, Etna was co-fermented red, almost like rosés, right? All Etna wines were co-fermented. Is that music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone's playing music.
Not us. I hope not.
So it would have been co-fermentations of Nerello Mascalese, Nerello Cappuccio, Caricante, Catarrato, all thrown together, and so they were
Can you make one of those, by the
rosés.
way?
I want to.
Cool,
I want
thank
to.
you,
I've been.
thank you.
I'm looking for something.
And then I'm coming with you.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah, I
Excuse
talked
me,
to.
we're coming with you.
I talked to a bunch of people.
I don't invite myself a lot, but I am.
I talked to a bunch of people when I was just there about it, and I'm still looking. But, and Sicily made mostly in the west, Marsala, right?
Right.
These sort of sweet, intense wines, and
also
Frappato.
underappreciated.
Also under. My dream is to make a Marsala. And also underappreciated. And then in the east, you had mostly Frappato. Frappato up until recently was, again, sort of like a pink wine. And so there was a need to have sort of a red wine that can get exported, and Cerosolo di Vittoria was the answer. And so now it's always gone back and forth between, was it mostly Frappato or mostly Nero d'Avola? Nowadays, you can make it somewhere in the middle. It has to be at
It's
least
like 60-40, right?
Yeah, this is 60-40. It has to be at least 40% Nero d'Avola. And so Valle dell'Acate is one of these historic estates. It's
Just
been there
brought the,
since
Grillo in.
but the Grillo is beautiful,
Yeah.
the Zagra. It's been around since the mid-1800s. It's seventh generation of the family, the Giacono family now. Gaetana Giacono runs the estate now, so it's a female-led winery. She essentially pushed her father and her brother out so that she can take over the winery and reorient it towards organic viticulture, really high quality wines. And so, when you talk in this area of Vittoria, it's really a tiny little area southeast of Sicily, west of Siracusa, west of Ragusa. We were about 30-40 minutes from Ragusa. Kind of a little peninsula. Notable about it is it's not volcanic soils. It's mostly clay soils with a lot of sort of different admixtures, including a lot of sand.
Right.
And so you get really high aromatics. You're about 15-20 minutes. I always say, depending how fast your Cinquecento goes, you're about 15-20 minutes from the beach, from the ocean. And her style, where because everybody, when I take these, I not only import these wines in the southeast, but I'm also their national brand ambassador nationally.
Cool.
And so I talk about these wines all over the U.S., right? And people always go, well, what about Kos? I'm like, yeah, Kos, okay. What about Ariano Cupinti? I'm like, okay, Kos is, I love Kos, right? If you go to my cellar, I've got a bunch of Kos. But Kos is a museum piece.
Yeah.
Right, Kos is to Sicilian wine what Vigna Tondonia is to Spanish, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're anachronisms, and it's a different thing, And Ariana's wines are very good, but Ariana's wines are like her, right?
Yeah.
They're very angular and very powerful wines. I would argue that that's a more international style than a more classic style. And what I love about Valle dell'Acate, that was always turned me on about their wines, is that it's truly a very Sicilian style. Soft, aromatic, really, really pretty. So
It's funny you say that about Kos, because I remember someone looked at me one day and they were like, you don't have any Kos on the menu. And I was like, I know. And they're like, well, why don't you? And I was like, well, because you can go next door and you can get it, and you can go to the place down the street and
you can get it everywhere.
And you can get it everywhere now. I go, I'm not saying their wine's bad. I go, but I just would prefer to have a different Cerasuolo that's more obscure to introduce you guys to.
That's right.
And he was like, well, how much Cerasuolo really is there? I go, there's a good little bit in
There's
this
a little
state.
bit,
I go,
yeah.
you just don't know about it because
Yeah.
you're constantly looking for Kos.
Right.
Which is fine.
But then you're also drinking Kos, right?
Right.
It's like, again, like Tondonia. Like, you're drinking Vigna Tondonia first.
Yeah.
Incidentally, it's Rioja.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
But you're drinking Tondonia first.
Right.
Yeah, and this is the same thing with Kos.
It's crazy.
And some of the wines are beautiful. Like we just did what did we? We did a.
One of his favorite wines is the Rami.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the white.
So good, yeah.
That's literally we just did a fish fry with slices of lemon and sage with the Rami. It was unbelievable.
good.
I love
So
that
good.
wine. But for me, what I love about the Cerasuolo di Vittoria is that you've got the sort of darker, deeper fruit from the Nero, and then you've got those beautiful aromatics from the Frappato that are kind of reined in.
Yep.
It smells nothing like any other Cerasuolo.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
And this vintage is singing.
You know,
right
every
now.
Cerasuolo is like leather, dark fruit,
Yeah, not
little
bad.
smoke, and I'm like, and I always said to myself, I'm like, I don't think it's supposed to taste like this or smell like this. You know?
No. You should smile.
You should.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
tell people, and I've mentioned it on this podcast before, but Frappato to me is one of the most sensual grapes
Yes,
ever.
I would agree.
And I remember the first time I ever tried Frappato, and to this day it's Cintonze Frappato, the purple label
I do
with the
love
silver
Cintonze,
foil.
yeah.
To me, it smelled like the first time I ever made love to my wife.
Yeah.
And that's how I sell
love
it to
that.
people.
That's so sweet.
I thank you.
That is
I
so
sell it to
funny.
people, and they smile,
Yeah.
and they go, "We'll take a bottle."
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's to me,
Absolutely.
it's just one of the
You gotta
best.
be careful when you say shit like that. You gotta go take the bottle and your wife. Fuck you.
Get out of here. No, I agree. Cintonze was one of the first frappatos that I
They
tasted
killed
and
it.
went, that's delicious.
Yeah, you're like, wait, what is
Yeah.
this again? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and to me, again, this
Oh, yeah,
bright
it's opening up so
red
much.
cherry.
And
Yeah,
it's already been
red
open for
cherry
over an
is-
hour. I mean,
yeah.
I know we're going over. This is a longer episode, but fuck.
The nose on this is insane.
Yeah.
You know what's funny to me? People always talk about fucking Nebbiolo and Barolo, Barbaresco, and like, oh, purple flowers, violets, this and that.
Yeah.
I'm like, have you smelled
Yeah.
a Frappato before? I go, it's literally
Well,
like putting your
it's
nose
like what we
into a
talked about.
hydration.
It's all you know.
It's
Yeah,
true.
that's right.
It's true.
Yeah,
You say
so-
chorizo di Vittoria to anybody, they have no fucking clue.
Yeah.
They go, "Could you have Barolo? You have Brunello? Yeah, $400 a bottle. Okay, do you have something else?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like one time I had a
My
guy.
budget's 50. Huh? Great.
When I,
Right.
it was like my 8th month into GMing. No, not even. It was like 4th month into GMing White Bull. We had a guest sit on the patio, and he's like, "I'll take the Brunello by the glass." And we were like, "We don't have one." And he goes, "You guys used to." And I was like, "Sir, I'm pretty sure we never had a Brunello." I go, "I've only been here for 4 months, but I can guarantee you we've never had a Brunello by the glass."
No.
He goes, "Yeah, you did. It was $20." I go, "We definitely did not have a $20 Brunello by the
Yeah,
glass.
exactly.
No way."
Wrong place.
Yeah. It's so funny. The cheapest Brunello I could sell by the glass was $25 because it was a closeout deal on a Magnum. You know? And I was like, yeah, alright, I can swing that for the holiday season.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
Right.
you ain't finding that.
And Brunello. Like,
Don't be that guy, please.
Do
if
you
you're
drink
listening.
Brunello? Probably not.
No.
Right,
I
it's like- it's
prefer
like
Rosso de
almost
Montalcino.
Yeah, like who cares?
I
You
prefer
know?
Rosso de Montalcino.
I do like
I
Rosso
think
de
Rosso de
Montalcino.
Montalcino is much
Yeah.
purer of an
Yeah.
expression.
Yeah.
And it's half the price.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's
totally fine with that. To me, Brunello's great. Like if I really like that person and I got a bottle hanging around, I'll bring it, for their birthday or for a dinner that I'm doing or whatever.
Yeah.
I know to me it's just
It can be self-important. Is my problem with it.
yeah. And also the problem is with Brunello is that it's also taken on that international flavor.
Yeah.
Versus when I was a kid growing up and my dad would be able to, get a bottle of Brunello and him and my mom would enjoy it and I would, take a sip of it, steal it when they're not looking. And it was just much more rustic and it reminded me much more of the Rosso de Montalcinos now. And now they're just so oaked, so reduced. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? Which is, I hope they get back because now Chianti's finally going back to what it was.
Yeah.
Because there was that brief stint where Chianti was very fruity, very, very fruity.
Yeah.
And it lost all that barnyard rustic farmhouse tones.
Well, I think
Now it's
Sangiovese
coming
lends
back.
itself more so to a more rustic
It does. And it
a
should
little
never
more
be
rustic,
muted.
dusty interpretation.
Absolutely, and that's
yeah.
what it's for. It's like, it's the same thing with like a real Rioja.
Yeah,
It should
yeah. A real
should be dusty leather. You should think you're a
Yeah.
conquistador on a fucking horseback.
Yeah, yeah.
It smells like a
right,
horse saddle.
right,
like
right,
that's what
right,
it should be. And a lot of people are just there for the
yeah.
oak and the vanilla and,
Right,
and the
right.
fruit.
You're putting caviar and pimento cheese.
Yeah.
It's like, no thanks.
Although he would do it if he could. What did you put? Oh, he did a caviar mozzarella sticks one time.
Mm-hmm.
That shit was fire. That was good. That was really
It's on the
good.
menu of us on it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So good.
Oh, it's so good. It's delicious.
Yeah. Nice, bright, really aromatic.
There's something there. I can't figure out what it is.
It's a little sanguine. Like a really rare steak,
Yeah. Is it
Yeah. Like almost what's that? Fucking.
What?
I'm trying to think of the word.
blue?
No. Like coppery, like blood. Coppery.
Yeah, sanguine.
Iron,
sanguine,
metallic,
yeah,
that's
sanguine,
it,
yeah.
Sanguine.
That's it.
Yeah. It's got that very,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's fucking
Well-
in an intense, very good way.
Well, here's the thing. I mean,
It tastes like copper blood.
you said
Enjoy.
you said it's more clay soils, right?
Yeah, these
Clay,
are clay.
super high in
Yeah,
iron.
these
Well,
are
it's
clay.
funny. It's funny. The back of the label says each individual wine in Valle de Acate is part of the 7 Soils for 7 Wines project. There are 7 distinct soils in a company's territory, and this wine is born in the red soil. That's even funnier.
Yeah.
It's sanguine.
So
Yeah.
Georgia, you guys
Red
should
clay,
make
yeah.
some
Yeah, I know,
Smaller.
right?
Stop
Yeah.
fucking around with the Cabernet Merlot.
Yeah, red clay. This
I say that all the time. I'm like, why doesn't Georgia plant more Italian varietals?
because you still have to spray the shit out of them.
Yeah, that's true.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
You have to spray the bejesus out of the grapes all year, and then you end up. I had started this project that kind of died with a winemaker up in Hiawassee.
Right.
And the idea was to kind of make an earlier version of not this wine, but some of the Odyssey type stuff. I was like, look, if you keep making Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc, you're tied to a formula. But if you bring other more obscure varietals that are better suited to this weather, like Listan,
Right.
and some of these Palomino.
Man, I haven't had a Listan ever.
But
Gotta do that.
there's not a lot of margin, a lot of money in those operations, and then you're like, let's make a Listan and make it carbonic, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, we'll
Yeah.
they can still sell Susan $22 overspray shot.
Yeah. What's the one white they mess with a lot of? There's a Semillon. There's a French white.
Well, it's
Viognier.
Viognier does very well, and there's a clone of Viognier that's been adapted to the south, specifically, and Viognier.
Lazio Viognier is mine.
Yeah, but it's again, it's kind of like by the time you're done, you've got a sprayed to death Viognier at $25.
Yeah.
$10 more, you get a Quandrio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
And so, like, to me, that's the equation that does it. Because I always want to be a champion. People always ask me, like, "Hey, what do you think? What do you think of the Georgia wines?" And I said, "Look, they're good, but again, like, do I want to pay $30 for a
best one I ever
mediocre
had?
Merlot? I don't know."
Yeah, the best one I ever had, I paid $60. Actually, my father paid $60 for it. It was a Sangiovese from Montelucci, and it was actually really. I think it was a Super Tuscan. Actually, it was really good. Like, definitely the best Georgia wine I ever had. But he looked at me and he goes, "It's good." And I go, "Yeah, it is good, actually." I go, "How much you pay for it?" He goes, $60. I go, "You could have bought Brunello." And he goes, "Yeah, I know. I was just really curious, and it was an impulse purchase." And I was like, "It's good. Like, it's not a bad purchase. It goes great with the steak."
Yeah.
Like, and I go, but next time he goes, "Yeah, I'm not gonna buy it again." He goes, "I'll just get something else." So,
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, especially like this Chirasolo is a DOCG, right? Chirasolo is the only DOCG in Sicily for whatever reason. Nobody can explain that to me. The winery's been around since the 1800s. This is still under $30 on a shelf.
Wow.
what is that going for retail?
Probably mid-20s is my guess.
That's totally worth it. I mean, what's Coast going for nowadays?
Mid-40s, yeah.
40s?
Yeah, 30s and 40s, yeah. But like this at the winery, we make it when we do like sometimes we host guests and we do a beef tartare with this, like a Sicilian beef tartare.
That's
like
how-
a little pomegranate molasses, some pistachios, some orange zest.
That's how I always do Chirasolo, and even like one of my favorite things is doing a rosé and another mescalese and a rosato, or doing just a Sicilian rosé. Good.
This is why I wear black. Oh my God. I had a stroke. Excuse me.
You didn't see it.
I'm recovered now.
But one of my favorite pairings, he does lamb tartare pretty often, and every time I pair it, I pair it with Sicilian rosé.
Yeah.
That's like my rule, no matter what, Sicilian rosé and tartare. And something about it.
It's beautiful.
It is.
It's beautiful.
But this even more, because you got that iron metallic kind of
Yeah, that sort of bloody, that sanguinity,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
I speak well for a Puerto Rican, but that sanguinity, I think, is coming from that frappato.
Mm-hmm.
But really pretty. I love Chirasolo Vittoria. I think it's again one of those wines that I think if it was easier to pronounce, it'd be a lot more popular. Just because it's a style that I think most people could relate to. And it's fresher than a cab, right? It's fresher than your typical big red, especially for the South.
You know what's funny to me is you do realize, you say it and we talk about it, but you don't really, I don't know, it's hitting me different today that the difficulty in pronunciation is what turns so many people off.
Yeah,
with
absolutely,
Italian wines.
absolutely,
It drives me
absolutely.
nuts.
Absolutely.
I don't, it's like,
I mean, I think
just attempt to say it. I'll point you in the right direction. Just attempt.
I think that's why people like Amarone, because
Yeah.
I think that's why they like Cabernet Sauvignon, because they could say it.
Yeah.
You know.
They've been taught how to say it for years.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's been on the shelves for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we love things. We love wines that have 3 syllables in it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's our
so funny.
our favorite kind of wine. So yeah, so this is the Chirasolo Vittoria. All neutral oak casks, all neutral botti for about a year. So really sort of low intervention, and a great little Sicilian red. And for me, to me this makes sense to be so bigger in style.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the Etna wines that are very big in style because they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's another thing that how Etna's transcended more towards, again, that international.
International style, yeah.
That's why people are always like, well, you have these Etnas I've never heard of. I go, that's the point.
Yeah.
You need to drink real Etna wine. Stop drinking.
Yeah, more Toledo, I imagine.
Like,
and-
stop drinking the Etnas you know. Like,
yeah.
That's why I love, what's their names? Oh my god. Benanti. They've never really strayed away. They're a huge name, but they've never really strayed away.
Yeah. That white is delicious.
Dude,
The
it's
white
so
is
good.
fantastic.
It's so good. So that's why I'm like, you're not going to see the Etna Rosas on our menu that that you would see at the store because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
They're bastardized now.
Well, what's the point of getting cab in a different dress?
Yeah,
Right.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Which is
100%.
which is usually
Still
what happens.
cab,
It's still cab.
Yeah.
You're just wearing a different dress.
Exactly.
You know. But I always say the thing that I think that keeps us all back is this over reliance on things that are comfortable, predictable, and convenient.
Yeah.
You know, and until we break ourselves of at least 2 or 3 of those, we actually don't start experiencing new things.
Sure.
You know.
Very
So.
Score?
9-2.
Wow, you're in the nines.
Yeah, I love churro swallow.
Nice.
It's because it's more Fabato heavy.
8-7.
8-7?
We'll say the same thing.
8-7?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's up there for me.
That was delicious.
Everything's tasting really good today. What do they call that? A fruit day or whatever?
I don't know, man. That day all tasted good. I wish I wasn't fucking teaching a pasta class right now. Drink 4 of those.
I know.
Oh my god, it's so good. All right, what do we want to end it with?
I'll let him go.
Go ahead.
Oh, what am I
Finish it
saying?
out.
Yeah. why-
Finish.
Your,
Look.
your ending thoughts.
Yeah. Ending thoughts. Italian wines will very seldom let you down, especially if you stray off the beaten path.
We didn't pay him to say that. By the
No,
way.
no. but they really won't. And be adventurous. Always remember that at the end of the day, in wine and food, as in life, growth happens at the edges of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And so go out there, get uncomfortable, and have some fantastic wine.
Love that.
Love it.
About to go get uncomfortable right now.
Oh,
Sir, anything else?
No, I got nothing. I'm piggyback on what he said because that's. I mean, I've been preaching that
I
for
know,
forever.
I
So
know.
I'm just waiting for people to get off their high horse. Get out of
Order
their comfort
something
zone.
you don't know. Order a dish of pasta you've never heard of.
You
Order
know-
a fucking steak that you don't know the ingredient. Try something.
Right, well,
you never
it's-
know. Maybe
it's
your
just
favorite
like-
thing you've ever had in your life.
Right. It's just like when people look at something on the menu and they recognize a few ingredients and they go, "That sounds good. How do you pronounce that?" And then you tell them how to pronounce it. They realize it's not hard to pronounce, and then they order that dish.
Yeah.
Same shit. Do that with
Yeah.
your wine.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce it? Cheddar swallow.
Yeah.
Okay, what's it like? It's very floral, it's sensual, but it's got this great masculinity still hidden behind all that sensuality. I love the fruit on the front of it, but not too much fruit.
It's metrosexual.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom, sold. Okay, well, yeah, actually, that sounds good. We'll take it.
Mhm.
And now you just learn how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not hard. Step out of the comfort zone, like you said.
I agree. Stray away from the American wines. Go to Italy.
Except Brock and
Yeah,
all
except
that.
for Brock and Matthias.
And all those guys.
And a couple other ones.
Awesome.
All right. Awesome.
Thank
See
you
you guys
guys.
next week.